Sorry, guys, I had to go run and grab a drink real quick. How's everybody doing today? I hate bullies. EdTube, Brandon. This is a public service. Claudette, disabled. Cindy B, Bear County. Piner, good to see you. George from down the hall, love it. David, Ordinary County in the house. Buzz, what's up, buddy? All right, guys, tonight we're going to do an open panel. We're going to talk about rights. I've been meaning to go over this stuff for quite a bit, and I just keep forgetting. Amen, Piner. Amen. Hello there, Bew. Go ahead and let me see you there, partner. Cool. All right. All right. You can take it off. What's going on, bud? You there? Bew. Can't see you, buddy. You all right? I don't know what happened to him. We'll see if he pops back up. Yeah, technical difficulties. Yeah, weird. Um, so yeah, guys, the link is posted. Anybody's able to come up. We're gonna go over a book called Elements of Civil Government. You guys can look it up online. There's free copies of it online. Can't remember where I got my copy at right this second, but or if need be, you can always email me at patriotdiscussions@gmail.com and I'll email you the PDF. Well, we're going to talk about that, Ed Man, because some people like to switch around civil rights and natural rights or unalienable rights. So we're going to try to cover that tonight. Toe, how you doing, buddy? Anybody's able to come up too, guys. Don't be afraid to pop on up here and talk, give your opinion, share some knowledge if you have it on the subject. We're going to give it another minute or so and then we'll get into everything. Yes, Mr. Frank Pants, please don't forget to hit the like button. All right, let me bring this up. What's up, Snap? How you doing, partner? Good to see you, sir. I'm going to pop off the StreamYard page for a second, guys, so I can blow this up a little bit more for us. I want everybody to be able to see and grasp these concepts here, because now this book is from 1891. It was a textbook, high school textbook. It was written by a teacher, and yeah, Tommy, that's in in memorial of the Goon Squad, the racist cops in Mississippi that got caught terrorizing those two black gentlemen. Um, but okay, so this book, textbook, high school textbook, back in 1891. Obviously, not a lot of people going to school back in 1891. Mostly the elite, upper crust. But even in this book, they misdirect, right? And I'll show you how. So we're talking about natural rights and civil rights, right? So, how many people in the chat would say that the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, those amendments are natural rights? How many people would say that that is true? Hey, John D., Winston, Wingspan, our guy. Our guy put a one. I don't know what one means. Guys, don't be afraid to come on up too if you want to talk about this. Okay. Tommy says yes. Galen, I hope I pronounced that right. If not, I'm terribly sorry. One means yes. Yes. Okay. Well, for those of you, yes, the book's by Alexander L. Peterman, Brandon Mitchell, yes. For those of you that think that the amendments, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, 10th Amendment, Fifth Amendment, are natural rights, you're mistaken. All right? They're civil rights or civil liberties, are they're also known as. And there's a difference between natural rights and civil rights. So, and here's where in the book it kind of gets off track there as well. Now here it's just talking about rights and duties. I'm on page 169. This is under the chapter 16, justice. And it says people have many rights and they have equally as many duties. Each right given to a person is a trust placed in his hand for him to discharge. A right implies a duty, and a duty implies a right. Rights and duties go hand in hand. For example, children have a right to the protection of their parents, and this implies that it is the duty of children to obey their parents. Now, that's an easy right and duty that we can all see and understand. It goes on to say civil rights and duties. Rights and duties are civil and political. It says civil rights are sometimes called inalienable rights. Now, I want you to pay attention here. You see it's IN, inalienable rights. We're going to talk about that as well. Because they cannot be justly taken away except as a punishment for crime. Okay? So they can be taken away as a punishment for crime, civil rights, sometimes called inalienable rights. They can be taken away as a punishment for crime. And then they go on to say that those are rights which we are endowed by nature. But this is not true. And we'll get into why in just a second. I'm sorry, I'm on the page I'm reading, so I haven't been looking at the chat. But anybody wants to is more than welcome to come up and discuss this with me. I know some people will agree and some will not. Let's continue on here for just a minute. It goes into some of the civil rights, but we're not going to get into that. And feel free to, again, read this on your own. It's free online, or if you need to, just email me and I will email you a PDF. So on page 170, it gets right to the heart of the matter here. And it says, when men, and please understand, ladies, back then in these books, when they say men, they mean humans, men and women. It's just the way they wrote this kind of material back then. But when men join the social compact, they agree to abandon some of their natural rights in order to be protected by the government and those which they retain. That is, each person agrees that in making his own claims, he will have due regard for the similar claims of others. All right. So basically, what they're saying there is that when we enter into a society, we agree to give up some of our natural rights in exchange for civil rights, the rights that each society has deemed that its citizens should enjoy, right? Now, the way you could tell that the Bill of Rights, first and foremost, is civil rights or rights that are given through the Constitution and law and government, is that they are not transferable to any other people in the world, right? You're not protected by the First Amendment as a Canadian, right? You're not protected by the Second Amendment as a Guatemalan, right? And Argentina doesn't have a Sixth Amendment right, right? You see what I'm saying? These rights are specific to America, right? They're civil rights. They're not given by the Creator, be it nature or God, whatever you believe. They're given to us by ourselves. This is what we as a society decided that all of our citizens should enjoy. But um, there's issues with that, right? And we talked a little bit ago about the public forum doctrine and how 100 years ago there was a gentleman in the Boston Commons that wasn't allowed to give a speech, and we had to fight for those rights, right? The same thing with the Civil Rights Act, the Civil Rights Movement, Dr. Martin Luther King. They had to petition for those rights, even though they were citizens, right? And they should have enjoyed the same rights that white people did, but they had to petition for those rights. Same thing for the women's suffrage, right? Women were citizens. Men had the right to vote. Why didn't women? Right? Because these are not natural rights, right? These are not rights that are given to us by God. Okay, I'm checking out the view here. Hold on, I'll get to. Well, right, Slim Jim. We as a society haven't really, um, added any amendments, I guess you could say, but we as a society have fleshed out the civil rights through litigation and such like that, right? Because, um, 100 years ago when Davis was going to court about the Boston Common free speech thing, he was denied. But today, granted, you do have, free speech in the Boston Commons, but it's important to understand what it is we're talking about, right? So when people say to me, well, you don't have to fight for the First Amendment, we already have it. Well, we had it 100 years ago when the dude was denied the right to free speech in the Boston Commons, too. So we're not at the pinnacle of rights, right? We haven't reached that Mount Everest of as free as we could possibly be. Now, civil rights mimic natural rights in a lot of ways, right? So we have a natural right to speech, right? And that's because we have a voice box, okay? And we have the mental capacity to form a language, whereas, a donkey doesn't, right? So, well, that's interesting that you say that, Dan. It's only people in nature have complete freedom, right? Because as soon as you enter into a society, you exchange your natural rights, you take on duties. And so people in a society are obligated, right? We're obligated to our neighbors, we're obligated to the government, right? So it's impossible for people to be free in a society. It doesn't work that way. It can't work that way, right? It wouldn't work. There has to be, um, rights and obligations there, and there has to be some kind of mechanism for enforcing those rights and obligations, or otherwise it would just be anarchy. So it's the only way that society can work. Um, and so what happens is when, and again, we're born into societies now. There's no spot on earth that you can go where a government hasn't claimed jurisdiction over, right? And so being born anywhere in these quote unquote nation states, political entities, you are then considered a citizen of this nation state. And they get to tax you and, tell you what to do, and all that other good stuff. And there's varying levels of freedom throughout the world. In some places, Denmark, you're, free to smoke weed and shoot heroin or whatever or something. I don't know. I've never been there. But the point is that in each society, those people in the society decide, and it could be, the whole of the people, or it could be just, the king, or it could be, the dictator that decides um, what rights that society is entailed to. Um, but it's an important distinction, right? Because we have the right to like self-defense by any means necessary, and then you have in America the right to bear arms, but they're different, right? Because everybody in the world has the right to defend themselves against an attack, right? But not everybody in the world has the right to bear arms. And the right to self-defense is a defense against murder, in every country, right? These are natural rights. These go with you wherever you go, right? Um, so let me get back to this book here because there was a couple other interesting parts here. Uh, bu- 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 Now, see, here's another socialist type of move they tried to put in here into this book, and it says the comfort and convenience of the public are even more important than the comfort and convenience of any person. Therefore, individual rights must yield to public rights when the two conflict. For example, the land of a private citizen may be condemned by the proper authorities and be used for public highways or other public purposes. So, and here it says the right of society existing above the right of any of its members is called the right of eminent domain. By it, individual rights must yield to the rights of society, of the government, or of a corporation. Okay, so understand right there what it said there, the rights of the government or a corporation. This is important for us to understand, and it's baked into the Constitution, socialism, eminent domain, okay? Because that there is pretty much the definition of eminent domain. It is the right to take one's private property to use for the public good, be it by the government or quote a corporation. All right. So it's disgusting, to say the least. But, and again, when we're talking about rights, yes, Slim Jim. And see, here's issues with stuff that's in the Constitution, and we'll be pointing them out as well. There's a lot of clauses in the Constitution. What's up, 907? I know it's cold up there, brother. So there's a lot of clauses in the Constitution. One of those clauses is that there shall be no indentured servitude unless for a crime, yada yada. And what's interesting is that it's the government that decides what the crimes are, right? So basically, what it says there in the Constitution is that we're free from involuntary servitude unless the government makes a particular thing that we do against the law. And then, you know, we're back into servitude. So they have a lot of those, like what I call get out of jail free cards. Um, Another one is about the private property. No private property shall be taken without just compensation. Did you super chat me, Matt? I'm sorry, brother. I've been yakking and looking off and reading some of this book, and I forgot what I was talking about. Gosh dang it. All right, can you guys still hear me? Sometimes my stream goes in and out. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, sometimes my stream goes in and out. I don't know what the deal is with my internet. Yeah, Mark, this is exactly correct. But there's a thesis that I came across a couple of years ago, and it's called the Organic Laws and Founding Principles. And really interesting thesis, and it really destroyed a lot of the narrative that the government has going on about history. No, Dan, I didn't. Let me look up here. Yeah, sorry guys, I haven't really been keeping an eye on the comment section. If you guys want to hit me up again with it, let me know. Oh yes, private property. Thanks, Wingspan Angel. So basically, in the Constitution, it says no private property shall be taken without just compensation. The Supreme Court has said that just compensation is fair market value. So try to take what I just said there and then take the fact that counties are selling people's property for back taxes of like $5,000 and $10,000. And in some instances, trying to keep over and above what they're owed on the house. Yes, the taken clause, George Daly. So basically, what they're saying is private property can't be taken without fair market value given. But I know personally, I've seen and read stories and cases where private property has been taken for back taxes for $5,000, $10,000, sold at auction, and sometimes that money's not even the remaining money that's acquired from the auction is not given to the homeowner. So how does that jive, right? So these are questions that we have to ask. Um, we can't just gloss over them anymore. So, but let me get back to this. There was one other spot here. Right here, political rights and duties. It says, by the social compact, men also agree to abandon a part of their natural rights in order to participate in the government. They agree in part to be governed by others in order that in part they may govern others. The rights of participation in the government, such as voting and holding office, are called political rights because they affect the public policy of society. Political rights do not belong to men by nature, but are conferred by government. So, well, we don't have private property, Dan. See, property rights, hold on, let me, while I'm talking real quick, I'm going to open another tab over here to Google and see if I can get this pulled up real quick. But in law, property is known as a bundle of rights, right? So it's not like the item, right? So it's not like, okay, so like a pen, right? Or a pencil or something like that. You would think, okay, this is my property. That's not how the law looks at something like land, right? So, and what they do is they call it a bundle of rights. And let me share this here in just a second. Let me kick this one and I'll share the other one. Anybody, I don't know what state is thought to have the fairest. Okay, so we'll look here. I got the Google property rights thing pulled up here. It's just an AI overview, but I'm going to blow it up here so everybody can see it. So it's a collection of legal rights associated with that property, right? And some of the um, rights that are associated with property is the right to the lumber, right? So if you buy a piece of property and it's got a whole bunch of trees on it, you get the right to have the lumber and mill it and sell it and make a profit or whatever. But in some places, you don't have that right. So a perfect example is up here around the armpit of Florida. Is there's a mill, a big lumber operation up there that has a lot of the property, and they'll sell you property, but they won't sell you the lumber rights to the property. They keep those. And the same thing with mineral rights. So, back in the day when you actually owned your property, anything that you dug up underneath your property, that was yours. If you struck gold, that was yours. If you hit oil, that was yours. Nowadays, that ain't the case, right? Because what happens is they sell off these rights. Okay? So, imagine I know people say that, Dan, but it's hard. And I know there's gurus on the internet that say it's easy, but it's hard. It's damn near impossible. Um, like damn near. Um, but so what happens is like, okay, so think of your property as a bouquet of roses, right? And each rose out of the 12 is a property right, right? Like one is mineral rights and one is lumber rights, and one is this right or one is that right. So what happens is back in the day, people, they bought the whole bouquet, they got the dozen roses, and as the years go by and as the land changes ownership and transfers, people sell off those rights, right? So some people sold the mineral rights and some people sold the lumber rights. So now in 2025, when you go to buy that quote unquote property, the guy's giving you just one rose, right? You don't have 11 of the 12 for that property. So it's not private in that sense anymore. Um, and that's how they get around taking people's property for back taxes without paying them fair market values, because we don't own private property anymore. And this is something that you can test yourself. You can go to any, and people on this channel have seen me do it. I've gone to the zoning boards and I've asked them, where's the property that's zoned private? Right? And they say, well, it's residential. No, it's not. It's not residential. It's not agricultural. It's not commercial. It's private, right? And I got a case. Let me see if I can pull up this case real quick. I'll see if I can find it in my favorites here. But I've got a case from the U.S. Supreme Court, and it's talking about um, private property, real private property. Okay, I think this is it right here. Let me see if I'm right. Okay, you guys can see that? All right, check this out. This is going to blow your mind here. Supreme Court filed 2019 federal land patent holder Charles Funk, irrevocable trust, successor trustee. So let's get down here. In an action in which the claim to be tried is a claim of 100% land ownership title held in an irrevocable trust deed update of a federal land patent. Such land held by allodial tenure. All right, you ain't going to see none of these words here in your mortgage documents, in your deeds. Allodial land is owned absolutely without recognizing any dominant lord or government to whom any duty is due on account of the land. Land in the United States are universally allodial. Now, when an individual pays money for services to be rendered from a trust, that becomes irrevocable trust for purposes of protecting the departed settler's assets from a divorcing spouse and creditors of a beneficiary. But hold on, let's go down here. There's some really interesting sections in here, and I'm scrolling through this, guys. I can't see the chat, so he's got some case law there. Hold on. And I'll be glad to send anybody this link as well so you can read this over for yourself. Okay, this is talking about pro se claim. So his family received the property in 1908. The President of the United States, Teddy, Signed federal land patent 20,762. Then Calvin Coolidge, signed land patent. It says, as the acts of the executive within the scope of such powers and by virtue of the law cannot be removed, cannot be reversed by any court. The recital of the federal land patent is conclusive. The land is for the sole use of the claimant. It's entered into the contract of the Charles Funk Revocable Living Trust. The land is inalienable property, exempt in fact. They don't pay any property tax, right? When you have allodial title, when you own property 100%, like this gentleman does, they're not paying property tax. Okay, we're going to get into the... So basically, this guy passed away. Son got the property. Son and wife getting divorced. Wife wants the property, but it's in the trust. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't look any of this up beforehand because I didn't think about getting into this. Okay, here we go. On February 12, 2009, June Funk filed for divorce. The Charles Funk Irrevocable Trust was not named, was not served, and not a party to the divorce action. Now, in June of 2010, for the divorce trial, the contract of the trust was entered as Exhibit E for evidence to notify all courts and its officers of, thus, the trust, with no trustee or federal land patent claimant authority or signature for termination. The court, at the end of the trial, with no valid concern, stripped the 50-50 arrangement with Kevin Funk's daughter, and without our daughter Tamara's knowledge, to supervise visits only. Now the court issued divorce decree. Any deeds of title held in the Charles Trust, there are no authorization from the trustee and beneficiary. So basically what they're saying here is that they're not going to be able to do anything. So what can't be done means the land cannot be transferred to anyone not a party to the Charles Funk Irrevocable Trust. No distribution, not terminated, thus no legal and lawful avenue to exit. So, and I know there's something here. I know the judge says something here. I'm looking, guys. Again, anybody that wants to check this out, it's actually a really interesting case. So, but basically what they're saying is that it's a land patent trust, and that there's no way that they could give. Yeah, the crux of Funk's argument has always been and has consistently remained that the trust property title is held in the irrevocable trust. The trust property has never been terminated after his father's death, therefore distribution has not taken place. This means the trust property became irrevocable and unamendable upon his father's death. This has been explained in the Exhibit E and the Exhibit E2. And that against statutory authority and against all trust doctrine and against the said language contained in the trust agreement. Kevin Funk's wife's attorney nonetheless initiated this fraud upon the court in the appellee's brief when she argued he inherited the property transferred to him through a trust when properly included in the marital estate. And so basically it led to the criminalization and the illegal conviction of Mr. Kevin Funk. So yeah, I forgot, this is really interesting. So Congress has the sole power to declare the dignity and effect of titles emanating from the United States, and the whole legislation of the federal government in reference to the public lands declares the patent the superior and conclusive evidence of legal title until its issuance. So, I mean, and again, you're not going to find many cases like this that talk about this kind of stuff because there's just not that much property in America left. I'm back on the page now, guys, so I can see the comments. You're not going to find property like this anymore. So the whole private property thing is an illusion, right? It works against other citizens, right, but not against the government. So, like, if you're trespassing on my property, I could have you removed, trespass, whatever, right? But if it's the government coming onto the property, they have a shit ton of exemptions, right? If you're with the Department of Natural Resources or the wildlife people, they have free reign. They'll just come right up in your backyard, go into your back porch, start looking through your deep freezer, seeing if you quote unquote were hunting deer out of season. You know what I mean? Um, there's all kinds of exemptions for the government to come on private property, right? Um, so private property only works against other citizens. Against the government, not so much, right? Um, yeah, right, George? You'd be like that guy in Indiana. I don't know if you guys remember that case where they woke him up in the middle of the night, no knock raid, and he ended up shooting him, and he got off. Um, I mean, really, who does that? Who comes barging in someone's house in the middle of the night and expecting not to get shot at? I mean, who does that? Right? Like, where does this common sense come from, man? This guy's they're not even making any sense anymore. You know, it's pathetic. Um, but anyway, guys, I didn't want to talk you guys' ear off. Just wanted to come up, share that book with you guys. Because again, a lot of people are, confused about the rights that we have and how they're, acquired, and if we have to, indeed stand up and fight for them, um, or if they're just, going to always be there and there's, nothing that could take them away. So, yeah, ATF, exactly. Sorry, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be posting some videos again soon. I do have that Majorly Awesome YouTube channel signed up. So I will be going out irregularly for the next couple of months until my probation's over. And then I'll be going back full time. And I will be posting all my audits on the Majorly Awesome YouTube channel. And I'll be using Rogue Nation to do some live streams and to showcase other auditors' work and to, do stories and such stuff like that. So that way people that want to just watch my audits can just watch my audits. And everybody else that wants to watch me yak for 46 minutes can watch me yak. So, right on. Thanks a lot, guys. Always a pleasure. Good to see everybody cammed up. Snap, Josephine, John D. Always good to see you folks. George, Claudette, Dan. Good to see you, man. Good peeps. Good peeps. All right, man. All right, guys. And remember, I'm going to see you on the next video because there's always going to be a next video, unfortunately.